The price of love. Everyone envied Daniel Carter. A humble man, a devoted husband, and married to Eleanor Sinclair, the richest woman in town. But behind the grand estate, the glittering parties, and the carefully curated smiles, there was a truth no one dared to see. Daniel loved Eleanor with all his heart. But Eleanor, she loved reminding him he was nothing without her. "You'd be a nobody if I hadn't married you," she would whisper in his ear at elegant dinner parties, her lips curved in a practiced smile. The guests would laugh, thinking it was a playful jest. Daniel would laugh too, because what else could he do? It started with small things. A passing remark, a slight correction in public, a joke at his expense. Then came the deeper cuts, her voice dripping with amusement as she told stories that turned his kindness into weakness, his love into something pathetic. Still, Daniel never stopped loving her. One night, at another one of Eleanor's grand parties, she raised her glass for a toast. "To my dear husband, the man who went from fixing cars to fixing my heart. Though, between us all, I'm not sure which one he was better at." Laughter erupted. Daniel felt the sting of it, deep and sharp, but he swallowed it down like he always did. He smiled. He nodded. He pretended. Because love, real love, wasn't supposed to be easy. But that night was different. Watching her, his hands trembling slightly. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with something deeper, something quieter. "You know I only tease because I love you, darling," she murmured, running her fingers through his hair. Daniel met her gaze. The woman he had married, the woman he still adored despite everything. He reached for her hand, pressing it gently against his chest. "I know," he whispered, and he meant it, because Daniel Carter was a good man, a loving husband, even when love meant learning to endure, even when love hurt. Days turned into weeks, and the cycle continued. Every party, every gathering, every moment where Eleanor could subtly remind Daniel of his place, she took it. Yet he endured. But one evening, while alone in his study, he found himself staring at an old photograph, him and Eleanor on their wedding day. Her smile had been different then, full of something real. Or had he just imagined it? Thinking too much again? Eleanor's voice cut through his thoughts as she entered the room. She carried a glass of wine, swirling it idly as she walked toward him. "I have a new gala coming up. You'll need to find something appropriate to wear." Daniel looked up at her, studying the woman he had once believed in with all his heart. "Eleanor, do you even love me?" The words slipped out before he could stop them. She scoffed, setting her glass down. "Daniel, love is such a fleeting thing, isn't it? You're useful. You're loyal. You know your place. Isn't that enough?" A silence settled between them, heavy and suffocating. Daniel exhaled slowly. "It is." But for the first time, he wasn't sure if he believed it anymore. That night, as Eleanor slept soundly beside him, Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He had spent years convincing himself that love was about sacrifice, about endurance, about swallowing his pride for the sake of something greater. But now, for the first time, he wondered, was love supposed to feel like this? And if it wasn't, then what had he been holding onto all these years? What does the story suggest about the true nature of love and sacrifice? Is Daniel's endurance a sign of strength, or is it a form of self-betrayal? Why do you think Eleanor continues to belittle Daniel despite his devotion? At what point does love become unhealthy, and how can one recognize it? Share your thought in the comments section, and if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to my channel. I try to bring you an impactful and interesting stories, and your support keeps me going. I appreciate having you on this journey.